communicate with people every day and anywhere, but sometimes we do not adjust our communication style to the audience or situation. Hello everyone, I'm Ma'am Honey and welcome to another learning session in oral communication in context. Communication does not take place in a vacuum. The context of any communication act is the environment surrounding it. This includes, among other things, the place, time, event, and attitudes of both the sender and receiver. For today's lesson, we are going to talk about speech context. Speech context. The context is a prime element of every communication process. Communication is affected by the context in which it takes place. The context of the communication interaction involves the setting, scene, and expectations of the individuals involved. The concept of context has evolved and expanded to include the type of relationships we have with others and the communicative rules that govern those relationships. It may be physical, social, chronological, or cultural. For example, you may feel comfortable sharing your personal information with close friends rather than colleagues. You will not speak to an unknown person as you talk to your wife. So the context of communication sets the environment of the communication process. Types of speech context. We communicate all the time, but how we communicate changes based on who we are with, what situation we are in, and what sort of events are occurring around us, our opinions and beliefs, and where we are. There are 4 types of speech context, which are the intrapersonal, interpersonal, public, and mass communication. Intrapersonal communication. Intra means inside or within. The intrapersonal communication is a form of speech context wherein the speaker talks to himself or herself and uses the mind as a channel of communication. So as we talk with ourselves, we are engaged in this kind of speech context. Talking to oneself in the mirror and whispering encouraging words to yourself like, "I can do it," are examples of intrapersonal communication. This develops one's self-awareness and self-confidence, where a person becomes aware of the qualities that help shape his personality, which in turn makes him aware of his motivations, aspirations, and expectations from the world, and at the same time makes him secure. Writing your thoughts in your personal diary or journaling are also forms of intrapersonal communication. Daydreaming, fantasizing, and working out a problem on your own are also examples. Interpersonal communication. The word inter means between or among. This is a type of communication between and among people and establishes personal relationship. Normally, it includes 2 or more individuals, and it can vary from casual and very personal to formal and impersonal. There are 2 types of interpersonal communication, and these include the DYAD and small group communication. DYAD communication. DYAD means 2. So this is a communication that happens between 2 people. It can happen in many forms like face-to-face conversations, phone conversations, instructions, and interviews. DYAD communication can occur even when the 2 participants are not of an equal position. There are 2 forms of dyadic communication, which is the formal and informal. Job interviews, counseling, confessions are some examples of formal dyadic communication, while talking with friends or family members are classified as informal. Small group communication. Small group communication is a form of communication that involves more than 2 people. While the minimum number of people in group communication is 3, we can say that there is no exact maximum number of members since the group size actually depends on the purpose of the group. In this type of communication, all participants can freely share ideas in an open discussion. An example of this includes the discussion you have with your 2 brothers about the surprise party you are planning for your mom's birthday. Another is a friend who came back from the United States who called her brothers and sisters to announce that she is getting married. Public communication. In this type of communication, the speaker addresses many listeners, collectively known as an audience. There is no interchanging of the speaker and listener roles. Majority of public communication events are formal. The speech is well prepared, the speaker is dressed appropriately, and the listeners are set to listen to the message. Moreover, there is usually a stage, a lectern, and a microphone coupled with a sound system and sometimes spotlights. An informal version of public communication can also happen. It does not necessarily have a stage. The speaker may be dressed informally and there may or may not be a microphone or sometimes just a megaphone. This can be seen during protest rallies, especially while the participants are moving through the streets. Mass communication. Mass communication are the human verbal interactions carried out with the aid of mass media technology. Mass media used to mean only radio and television, which reach more people with the use of their technical systems. But with the advent of the internet and the World Wide Web, mass communication now includes social media. This allows for the use of technology by everyone, not just journalists, broadcasters, and technical crew. Social media cover videos that go viral on the internet, as well as webcasts, podcasts, which reach millions more than radio or TV ever could. Even radio and TV have already joined the social media by putting up their own websites to communicate to a larger audience. It's time to try what you have learned on the speech context. I want you to identify the type of speech context evident in the following situations. You were elected as the new SSG president of your school and were given a chance to deliver a message of gratitude to your fellow students. What is the type of speech context? A message is delivered in front of a large audience, which makes this an example of public communication. You provided reassuring and comforting words to a friend who was feeling down. What is the type of speech context? This is an example of interpersonal communication, but since it only involves two persons, it falls under the DYAD communication. Sheena thinks about the things she did the whole day and writes them in her journal. What is the type of speech context? Communicating your personal thoughts in your journal is a form of intrapersonal communication. You are having a discussion with your groupmates on how to finish the assigned task. What is the type of speech context? Interpersonal communication is categorized depending on the number of participants. This involves more than two persons, which makes it an example of small group communication. The TV news anchor is giving the latest news update. What is the type of speech context? When media is used to communicate, this is an example of mass communication. It is important to learn the various types of speech contexts because it would help us fully understand why do we need to communicate with ourselves as well as with the other people and how should we act and respond in front of them. Can you cite other reasons why it is important to know the different types of speech contexts, especially for you as a senior high school student? Just type in your answers in the comment section of this video. Knowing the different types of speech contexts can help us adapt the way we communicate to different situations by considering the many factors that influence the effectiveness of our communication.